My name is Marcia Diamond. I'm New Business Development with All You Serve, and welcome to our free webinar series. And this month, because it is Allergy Awareness Week, we are doing Demystifying Food Allergies Best Practices. And we are so blessed and grateful to have Jordan Mason, MD. She is the founder and president of Safer Dining, a food allergy consulting and education firm located in St. Petersburg. Dr. Mason received her Bachelor of Science degree in Biology and Sports Medicine, and she has furthered her education for College of Medicine at the University of Florida, specializing in nuclear cardiology. Jordan's diversified background has allowed her to leverage her training as a physician, a researcher, and subject matter expert in the field of food allergies. Safer Dining is excited to announce their most recent partnership as the exclusive food allergy training company for Regulatory Compliance Services, a subsidy of Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. So welcome, Jordan, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Marcia. And I do apologize to everyone. You know, it's all fun and games until someone gets a hold of your panelist ID number, and then everybody has to wait. So I do apologize. And I want to thank everyone for staying online and joining us for this awesome webinar that we're going to have today talking about food allergies. And as Marcia said, it is Food Allergy Awareness Week, and it is Allergy and Asthma Awareness Month. I think we're going to take over. Here we go. On today's menu, we're going to talk about the top 8 allergens, or the big 8 allergens that a lot of people have heard about. We're also going to be talking about some best practices when you're handling food allergy requests. And we're also going to talk about how to recognize the key tools, equipment, and resources to further enable your ability to keep both patients and patrons safer within your establishments. A lot of people come up to me and they say all the time, so why is it so important for us to learn about food allergies? What is all this hype about? And really, to put it in perspective, I like to give a lot of statistics. One of the most surprising statistics for people is to understand that every 3 minutes, a food allergic reaction sends someone to the emergency department. There is not a cure for food allergies at this time. We're hopeful, but there is not one at this time. Approximately 15 million Americans have at least one food allergy. And a food allergy is the most common cause of anaphylaxis in the U.S. for emergency room visits. And also, not to mention that 50% of all food allergic reactions occur outside the home. So what are these big 8 food allergens? First of all, 8 foods are responsible for approximately 90% of all food allergic reactions. They are eggs, fish, milk, and keep in mind it's milk, not dairy, because milk is an ingredient and dairy is a product, peanuts, crustacean shellfish, soy, tree nuts, and wheat. The FDA has received a petition to add sesame seeds to the list, and this would make it the big 9. And we hear a lot about the big 8, but I want everybody to also keep in mind that people can be allergic to anything. There are over 220 other foods responsible for the other 10%. Now, I'm fortunate enough to be one of those awesome 10%ers. I'm allergic to all seasonings and spices. This certainly doesn't fall under the top 8, but it certainly does evoke an anaphylactic response. Here in the U.S., we may only recognize the top 8 allergens. But allergies don't have borders. In Canada, they recognize 11 food allergies. We have mustard, sesame seeds, and sulfites on top of the United States top 8. In the United Kingdom, they recognize 14. They recognize the United States 8, the additional 3 from Canada, and then another 3, which are celery, molluscan shellfish, and lupin. Lupin is pretty interesting. It is a flower, and it's highly cross-reactive to peanuts and should be treated as such. Now, many times when people talk about food allergies, we also want to know, what is the difference between a food allergy and a food intolerance? The biggest reason and the biggest thing between the two of them is that a food allergy is an immunologic response. And one of the things that people often talk about is, well, how do you really know? And are food allergies always going to cause a problem? Or I'm always going to go into an anaphylactic shock? And the way that I found that this often comes across the best, and when I do live speaking engagements, is I always find the people in the room, you have a very unique mix of people. Like today, I'm sure we have a unique mix of people on the phone call. But there's always somebody that kind of gets under your skin, and that's like a food allergy. You meet them for the first time, and they may bother you just a little bit. But every time you see that person, they bother you just a little bit more. So eventually, you just explode. Well, that's kind of like a food allergy. Your body doesn't build up the tolerance to a food allergy, just like you haven't built up the tolerance to that one person that irritates you. It's the same thing. It's the same idea. Your body has a visceral response to it. You do not develop an immunity, and eventually you will go into anaphylactic shock. But it is an immunologic response. An anaphylactic shock is the severe type of allergic reaction that you can have. Is an acute response, which is a rapid onset to a reaction to a food allergy. When you have an anaphylactic shock, it can be so severe and so quick that it can be life-threatening if not treated immediately. The entire body may react to the allergy simultaneously. And their severe reactions can occur with even trace amounts of food present. And in some cases, even the vapor of the food passing by can cause a reaction. And you'll see here on the screen that there are signs and symptoms of anaphylactic shock. And some of the most common ones that people talk about a lot are you're going to have your hives, and your throat swelling, and the tightness. Their difficulty swallowing, their difficulty breathing. The swelling of the lips and the tongue, the flushing, the redness, the chest tightness, loss of consciousness, and of course, death. If somebody is going to be having an anaphylactic shock, or if they know they're prone to having an anaphylactic shock, they would carry around epinephrine. Or what most people hear is the term EpiPen. Now, the picture you see up to your left corner is what a lot of people think about needles, and I'm right there with them. Although I'm a physician, I don't enjoy having a needle stuck into me. I'll stick you all day long, but I myself am not very fond of needles. Now, it is important you understand how to inject epinephrine properly, but it's also important that you are aware of your laws and if it is okay for your facility and for you as an employee to inject epinephrine. Epinephrine is the only medication that can help save the life of someone that's going into anaphylactic shock. It is pure adrenaline and allows approximately 10 to 15 minutes of airflow, allowing the individual to breathe. Epinephrine is used during anaphylaxis and is only administered by the guests themselves or by the person with them. Do not inject epinephrine unless you've been trained or instructed to do so by your management and or your state legislation. There's been many new laws coming up that have granted EpiPens to be stored in public venues. This is why it's so important for many facilities to understand if EpiPens are being stocked in their public facility. One thing to also note on this slide that I want to talk about with EpiPens is that many of you may not know that ambulances, not all ambulances, carry epinephrine on them. This is why it is so important that if you are to ever call 911, that you notify the 911 operator that there is an allergic reaction occurring. This allows them to notify the correct ambulance to be sent to the facility that's carrying epinephrine. Now there's a little statement that I learned when I was in school, and it was a certainly valuable lesson, and it was called the KISS method, and it was keep it simple, stupid. And that's something that really needs to kind of transcend into our training. And that's something that I take through with this. You need to be proactive rather than reactive. And we always know that accidents can happen. However, with the right tools, awareness and knowledge can prevent almost any incident from occurring. And understand that an accident and an incident are two very different things. And the reason we talk about that is because we need to talk about training. The whole reason that we're talking about food allergies. It is imperative that we train our staff. It's imperative that they understand the importance of learning about food allergies. And not only just learning about food allergies, but having the best practices and having the tools and the resources at their fingertips. I thought this quote was just a perfect quote to have, and it's by Joe Gennady, and that is to put your people at the center of your decisions. If you do this, you will always be able to make sure that your staff and your customers are safer. And once you have your training set up, you need to define the roles and responsibilities. It's extremely important that your food allergen team understands their place as well as who they refer both the customer and other employees to. They may need to know what is the restaurant's or hospital's policy in addressing customer concerns with food allergies. Who will answer a customer's question, whether it be on food options, menu selections, ingredient lists. They also might need to know who's keeping records of suppliers, manufacturers, orders, and ingredients. And also, make sure you understand when the information is to be presented to staff and keep them updated on any changes. This picture here that you see is part of a poster that we actually provide to our clients from Safer Dining. It serves as a reminder of what we call the hotspots in the areas of cross-contamination is most likely to occur. Most will think that these items that they see here are common sense. However, time and time again, we see continued problems here. Just because you have on gloves, it doesn't mean everything you have touched magically disappears. They need to be changed each time an allergy order begins. The fryer causes many anaphylactic episodes. An everyday scenario for myself might go something like this. I've ordered French fries and a grilled chicken sandwich. They've done a great job on my chicken sandwich. However, when they bring the fries out, they may have failed to mention that they just fried seasoned calamari prior to putting my French fries in. Because it was not separated in a different oil, with a fryer, it has the ability to soak up proteins from any other item placed in the fryer previously. If they just finished frying that calamari and then put my fries in there subsequently, then I just earned a trip to the emergency department. And this is something so important because a lot of people forget about the cross-contamination on different little items. And the fryer is one that people are becoming more and more informative on, but there are other items on here, such as your cutting boards, your baking sheets, your cooktops, your knives. These are all things that we need to stay on top of. So how do we make sure that these items are being kept clean? Well, sanitation is extremely important, and it's often overlooked. Because you can't always see a food allergen protein on the surface, there's tools and resources to help make sure that you can find these and test for these proteins. This product here was created by 3M. It's called the Clean Trace Allergen Protein Testing Swab. It allows just that. After a quick 15-minute hold on a heat block, you're able to clearly identify if contamination is on a clean surface. This would allow you to go back and have a double check and make sure that your standard of cleaning has been taken care of. It's always better to be on the safe side than to be sorry.
And where are those available?
We actually, through Safer Dining, we actually have a program with 3M, and you can order them through us or with any of a 3M rep. And we find that they work great in a hospital setting. You can use them at the end of your evenings in a restaurant, especially in manufacturing and distributing facilities. And but definitely we spend a lot in the hospital and manufacturing facilities for sure.
Okay.
Another area I want to talk about today is about hidden exposures. A lot of times we forget about the hidden areas that we should be aware of, especially in the kitchen and also on the menu.
I'm going to hold. I see questions are coming in. Please send the questions in and we'll hold them till the end. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Jordan.
That's okay. Going over the hidden exposures in the kitchen, what we talked about, what's not a picture here, we just spoke about the fryer. We also have here your storage, whether it be a walk-in cooler or your dry storage. You always want to clearly mark your containers, your boxes, your supplies, if it contains an allergen. For our clients, many of them like to use colored tape. It's a easy identifier. It's also cost efficient. You want to be careful removing and stowing items to make sure there's no spillage or accidental cross-contact. And always check packages whenever you're receiving them from a supplier and make sure that there hasn't even been any cross-contamination. On deli slicers, whenever you have an allergy order, the entire slicer, blade included, must be cleaned and sanitized. The simple wipe down is not sufficient and not sufficient enough.
What are the best practices to clean it?
When you've worked with your sanitation company and they've given you your specific protocols on cleaning the deli slicer, you do have to remove all pieces of the deli slicer itself. The handle, the blade, everything needs to be removed and then wipe down with your specific cleaning material that you have and then put back, and then that's the time that you can then slice on that deli slicer. For example, if you were to simply slice some turkey breast that has, and I'll use my allergy, it's the easiest one for myself. If you were to slice a turkey breast that had seasoning on it, and then I asked for a slice of turkey that did not, and you sliced it right after and simply just did a quick wipe down, and it wasn't completely sanitized, it would have cross-contact, and chances are very high that I would then have cross-contamination on my turkey and would send me to the emergency department and with anaphylactic shock.
Okay.
So depending on who you utilize for your cleaning products, there's usually a 7-step process that many companies go through for their correct sanitation, and that's what we recommend doing.
Thank you.
The other areas that we have here that we talk about are your grill, your workstations, your buffet lines, and catered events. Just a couple of little highlights, especially on our grill. This surface comes into contact with many different proteins. Always inform your guest of a high-risk situation. Offer to cover the grill surface either with a heavy-duty foil to create a barrier, or simply place it on a clean pan and then put it on your grill top. With your workstations, the station must be thoroughly cleaned and sanitized prior to prepping, cooking, or plating any allergy meal. Buffet lines are an extremely high likelihood of cross-contact. Items are constantly dripping on other foods, and it's not a controlled environment. If possible, set aside small amounts of food to create a dish to accommodate anyone that has a special dietary need or food allergy. And within catered events, group foods based on food type. Make a special meal and keep it separate for the person with a food allergy and serve it to them when they are ready. We have hidden exposures as well on the menu, delay. Marsha, you want to click it just in case? I'll have Marsha go forward. For some reason, it's not moving forward here onto our next screen. So our hidden exposures on the menu, the biggest part that we have to worry about are ingredients. And a lot of times I'll have clients that come to me and say, well, they don't want to reveal their secret recipes or all the ingredients that are in their sauces. And there's a really quite an easy way around this. We're not asking you to reveal all of your ingredients necessarily, but simply have an area where those ingredients can be found by your staff. If your staff knows where to find those ingredients, they can simply notify the patron if the item that they're allergic to is found within the ingredient list. This way, you still have all proprietary rights to your ingredients and to your sauces and to your dishes, and you do not have to reveal them, but you can also keep your patrons safe. At Safer Dining, we offer what's called an ingredient resource sheet. This provides the top 8 allergens with alternate common names, which may be used, and also what food items they may be found in. So it's okay to laugh and agree, because we've all been here with this chef cursing. If for some reason the dish must be prepared again, it is of the utmost importance not to assume all of your utensils and cookware are still clean and safe. Once the allergy dish has left the kitchen, the utensils, your grill top, the pans, and any other item which may have been used in preparation and cooking of the meal are no longer sanitized or safe. You must start the process from the beginning. All too often, someone assumes that an item is clean and it is not. Looks can be deceiving. Remember that the customer is not just a picky eater. An anaphylactic shock from a food allergy can kill. Kindly let your patrons know that you needed to restart their meal to be on the safe side, and they will understand that. Waiting is much easier than going into the ER. So what are the tools and resources that will help you through all of this? In an ideal world, we would love to see separate color-coded kitchen equipment to be used for all allergy orders. They're out there. We also have allergy awareness icons. You can use these on your menus. It makes it very easy to identify what allergens are in your different menu items and within your different meals. It's also a way to have a special dietary request, even if they just have an aversion rather than having an actual allergy. If you have a standard protocol in place and you use the color-coded equipment, it's easy for everyone to identify. Another great feature are having separate workstations. Because they are one of the most common areas of cross-contamination, they are your bread and butter of making certain to keep cross-contamination away. Utensils and accessories, just like we said in this previous slide, are not the only equipment that are designated as allergen-free, but also can be featured with the color coding here as shown, which is offered by All You Serve. But all services, work areas, and equipment have to be cleaned and sanitized between each use. Prepare the food only in a sanitized environment. So, one of your other options, once you have utilized all your tools, is the ability to deliver your food safely. Designated room service delivery carts are not just for the healthcare industry. These carts would be extremely valuable in a hotel environment as well. Having a safe and efficient mode to transport the allergen-free meal is essential in the continuity of care and flow of communication from the kitchen to the patron and or to the patient. Now, this image is actually of a simulated university, and it's extremely important because all colleges and universities must supply any student on a meal plan with special dietary needs access to specialty foods matching their specific diet, as well as safe zones within the dining areas. Therefore, a POD, point of delivery system, is extremely well utilized within this type of arrangement. Pods are something that All You Serve also utilizes within their equipment base.
And the other thing I would add to this is that in a retail environment, whether it's a university or even in a hotel or even in a B&I account or healthcare or even in a senior living, having an area that's designated, maybe called, you know, the safe area, which you can have all your vegan food, your vegetarian, as well as your allergen safe, denotes that you care about your customers. And so, you know, you can make it as large as this was designed in this rendering and denote it with a certain color, purple or whatever color you want. But having the title and the transparency is key. And again, for students and parents seeing that, that's a great plus for admissions. But even when you come to a B&I, or people want the experience to be safe, positive, but they also want to be positive. It has to be safe. And if you have an allergen, it becomes very troublesome. I remember traveling with a woman, saleswoman, and we went to eat lunch, and I said, you know, why don't you get the salad? She goes, you know, I don't know. I see this place. It looks like they cook the pasta and then they blanch the vegetables, and she had a celiac. She goes, I don't know. I'm just going to have a bag of chips. Well, that's not very nutritious, but at the same token, her safety of not ending up having to take an EpiPen or end up in the hospital allows her not to eat well and not to eat healthy. So then we were talking a little while later, and she says, you know, when I travel, I try to eat my lunches in hospitals. And I said, And she said, because when they say something is allergen safe, or I know it is. So hopefully everyone on this call heeds that advice, that you want to make sure you are following these things for not only people that are in your hospitals or your customers or your staff, but for people that are coming into town and saying, you know, I'm going to have lunch here. It has good food, it's safe, and great. What a great experience.
Well, that's very true. And also having the food allergy, and when you are, and we'll go into this here as well, with having the retail option, it is very difficult when you're traveling and having those food allergies, and always having the bag of chips. For as people that travel with me, they know that I always have, you know, my chocolate, which I'm not allergic to chocolate, thankfully, but always having my chocolate or having my granola bars, living off of those, because when you find ways to keep yourself safe, and eating in the hospital environment and eating in the different places, we utilize those areas. Once we know that a company does a great job with food allergies, we always go back to those same companies. So we'll continue this here, is that we have our retail options. And here's something, again, you have a really great convenient mobile units. And they're an awesome piece of equipment to have, because you have a prepping station, you have a hand washing station, you have the ability to prep and cook, and they're just kind of what we call a mobile action station. And I'm sure Marsha can give you a lot more information on these units themselves.
The idea is, if you're working in a certain area and you want to keep it designated and not a lot of capital expenditure, but minimize your capital expenditure, or you have picnics, or you have events or catered events, here's an ability to just keep it utilized for that component, decrease liability and increase satisfaction. So, you know, All You Serve got into making some of these mobile pieces so that they're identifiable. Again, the transparency of it. And, you know, I just wanted to product to outcome, you know, we're going to be by your side, whether it's a utility cart, that the components on that.
And then finally, with the color purple. The color purple has been recognized throughout the food allergy community. However, really the most important component is to understand a specific color-coded system to designate a food allergy or special dietary zone, special training, or special tools. This ensures your establishment and staff are clear on your system and color code. So even if you aren't able to purchase all purple equipment, but if you're able to designate a specific color, that's the most important piece, is just having that consistency and having that transparency and being able to have that step of having that coding and ensuring that safety throughout. So today, really, what we really want you to understand is understanding what the big 8 are, the food allergens in the U.S. We have our eggs, our fish, milk, peanuts, crustacean shellfish, soy, tree nuts, and wheat. Making sure that you understand the essentials of developing and implementing a food allergy protocol within your business. Work with a food allergy training company, such as Safer Dining, that can develop best practices and protocols to meet your needs. Not necessarily a one-size-fits-all. That is great for some companies, but for other companies, it's best to bring someone in that can truly sit down with you and find out what your needs are from A to Z. Food allergy training is an effective and marketable tool to keep your patients and patrons safer. Food allergies are an extremely hot market, and it's very marketable as well. Reach out to vendors such as AudiServe for food allergy designated equipment and tools.
Now I have
finally
questions. So here's one question. How do you define allergy-free when people can be allergic to most foods? Example, plain chicken and rice. 1 second. Plain chicken and rice may be allergic-free to most, but not to the person allergic to poultry and rice. We account for 90-plus allergens in our hospital.
So, okay, to answer that question.
Oh, you got it? I'm going to repeat it again. How do you define allergy-free when people can be allergic to most food?
So in the U.S., when we base the information currently, when things are labeled as allergy-free or allergy-friendly, we have to base it off the FDA standards of having the 8 allergens that they have selected, which is why there's been many petitions to add the allergens. And currently, since they are the only allergens that are recognized, when you state that it's allergen-free and it's free of those top 8, those are the allergens that are being recognized. Granted, yes, people can be allergic to other items, but those are the ones that we are discussing specifically.
And a point to be made is that maybe on your menus or in your cafeterias, the transparency of those allergen-free items are listed, as we showed you earlier, having something aware so that the people do know that they are allergen safe for those items. You know, there are a lot of people there that eat gluten-free but are not celiac, or have a gluten intolerance but are not necessarily a celiac. They too just have to be aware of the ingredients or things that are in it. Awareness is the key. Awareness and education helps you control. Again, you know, you can have a menu and someone says, oh, I'm allergic to pork, but I can have bacon. You know what, that person wants the bacon, but is not allergic to anything. So the idea is we as health professionals have to make, you know, transparency as much as we can. And you will always have, for example, Jordan, you know, her allergies, you know, or spices, and, you know, who would have thunk it, you know? And so therefore, once something does happen, you have to have, she needs ingredients, transparency, so she can make better food choices. Someone else asked, why distinguish between dairy and milk? I thought it was the protein casein that causes the allergic reaction. Casein is found in most dairy products.
Okay.
Why distinguish between dairy and milk? Okay.
Why the distinction? Because milk is an ingredient and dairy is considered a product. So again, we have to abide by the FDA and the food code and their laws of the land. So if my friends are on here from FDA, hello, they know me well when I always start talking about how much fun it is to work around this. But there is the casein in the way. Now, when you start talking about this, we have to technically say that it's the milk and not dairy. So you can have all milk is dairy, but not all dairy has milk, if that makes sense. It's the same principle of why I would like to see molluscan shellfish added. We currently only have crustacean shellfish. And unfortunately, a lot of people are allergic to molluscan shellfish, and when they go out, they expect people to, when they say shellfish, they want to encompass everything. And here in the U.S., we only recognize the crustacean, not the molluscan.
Jordan, could you give the example of each type of shellfish for some people?
Sure. So when you're talking about the crustacean shellfish, a lot of people, they automatically think of your lobster, your shrimp, and your crab, and then your mollusks would be your mussels, your excuse me, your scallops, your abalone, your
That's good.
those. Okay.
Thank
I
you.
could start going off more.
Another question: can you speak to best practices with toasters? Toasting cinnamon raisin bread, then plain bread. You cannot fully clean toasters, and also cannot have separate toasters for all items toasted.
Correct. And that also depends on which type of toaster they're speaking of. If it's a line toaster, where they just put them down and let them go through, or if it's just a drop-in toaster. If you're speaking more of like a toaster, if you would have one at home, where you would just drop in the 2 at a time or 4 at a time versus a line that would go through. When I speak with people, okay. So on
conveyor
on
toaster.
the belt, okay, on the conveyor. So so for our clients, we let them know that if they are toasting anything and they have a patron that comes in and they have a food allergen, that they are to notify the patron immediately that it's on a conveyor, that they do not have a way of sanitizing that there is going to be cross contact, and then it's up to the patron themselves if they want to still have that menu item. If your establishment still does not feel comfortable in giving that item to the patron, then you can say no. No is all right. No is okay to say. And if you feel it's not safe, then you reserve that right to say no. It's better to be on the safe side than find out later that it was not a good choice. So please keep that in mind.
And best practices for ovens, especially convection. What are the best practices for ovens, especially convection?
Best practices for ovens, especially convection.
Is it the same thing to line them? Or some way?
You can. The thing with ovens, anytime you're putting in an oven, use a pan. That's going to be your safest. Always have a pan. Always have some kind of barrier. You will always need a barrier of some sort.
Okay.
And then have their information, and then I can get back to them on further best practices of that.
Okay. Oh, So let me see. That's the only other question that came up is if there's top 8 food allergens in the U.S., would it be recommended that I see you see 11, 14 for Europe, Canada, there was 11, I think, or 8, a few more. Would it be best to, because we have so many visitors in and outside of our hospitals, would it be behoove us, even though we only have to abide by the 8, would it behoove us to be more transparent in the ingredient listing of all 14? What would be your recommendation?
I always say the more information you have, the better. I personally give our clients the 14 because if you're only training for the 8, like you said, especially depending on what state your hospital may be located in, if you're only training for the 8 and you have a high tourism industry and they're here, they may not expect that the U.S. only has 8, and they may expect you to have the knowledge of the 14. And if you're unaware of those 14 items, then that can come back around to you. So I always say it's best to have too much information than too little information. So it wouldn't hurt you to have the information, and just like Marcia said, even if you're not training for the 8, at least have the ability to recognize the 14 and have the ability to have your ingredient base and information on cross-referencing to those 14.
And with technology,
if you have the ability.
And with technology today and partnerships with your food distributors, et cetera, you should be able to have that much more easily than we would have ever had it before. So again, with menus and menu planning, collaborate with your business partners to do that. I think you would definitely find that that would be the way to do it.
Yes, many of the POS systems now can interlink and go through your ingredient base.
Yep, yeah. So any other conclusion words, Jordan, before we close out today? I will state this before Jordan says her last thing. This is being recorded, and you will be able to get a copy of the presentation and a certificate of participation located on the All You Serve website. You will get the link. It'll be available early next week. And Jordan, final words, final parting words.
No, just thank you all so very much, and thank you for your patience in the beginning. And if you have any questions or needs with food allergies, please don't hesitate to reach out. I know my information was in the very beginning, but you can always look us up at saferdining.com.
As well as if you go to the All You Served, her bio is on there as well as Safer Dining, so they'll be able to do that. Thank you so much for sharing this and helping us develop best practices and getting us started, and certainly telling us what tools and equipment and resources are out there to keep our patients, our residents, our customers, and patrons safer. I think this is a good way to get started with Allergen Awareness Week and Asthma Month, you said. And so if we're going to get started, this is the right way to get started. So thank you, Jordan, for sharing your wisdom and spending your time today. And thank you, everyone on the call, for your patience and for being educated, because the more educated you are, the better our healthcare food service will be elevated and the better we are. Thank you. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.